this person edged Kobe out by 1 point. He came in fifth. This person is also known for having a very much shoot first mentality. It was number 4 by The Mountain and number 3 by D3. It is Melo or Carmelo Anthony.
So nowadays you got to differentiate.
Yes. Look, my thing with Carmelo Anthony is people like to put him in the same category as like the tier below LeBron, like the Dwayne Wades, the Dirks of the world. To me, he's not in that tier. He's a tier below that.
Okay.
He's a great scorer, but that's really about it. You think Kobe's just a scorer? At least Kobe played defense.
I'll just say it was a complete nightmare in Denver when him and Iverson are on the same team because you have two ISO scorers on the same, two huge ISO volume scorers on the same team.
I was like, Carmelo has like no playoff success, whereas the
How
legendary
anybody thought that Melo and Iverson were going to work out is beyond me.
He's a great scorer, but like I said, that's really all he. He said Kobe at least played great, outstanding defense. Is Carmelo a top 75 all time? Absolutely. He top like 30, 40? I don't think he's top 30, 40. Especially since after the age of 32, he's really gone on the downhill scoring wise. But he doesn't have a great late career. He's still good, serviceable, really good, but he's nowhere near like what LeBron is at the same age. And LeBron's.
I mean, LeBron's doing at 37. I don't think you're going to see it.
Kareem was still doing that at 37, but there's very few.
Not 29 a game.
He's just not as good as people say he is. Some people like say he's top like 25 all time. He's not. Let me see.
Did Melo make the 75? I imagine he did.
Yeah, he made 75.
Is that us right there?
He belongs in the 75, but towards the back end of the 75 in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, he would have to be near the back end. Yeah.
For his career, he's 3-13 in the playoffs. 3-13.
Yeah, you talking about in series? Yeah.
Yeah, series.
Because like
he's 1-9 in the first round.
He went to the conference finals once, and then
he should be 2-9.
Huh? 2-9. What do you mean?
Basketball Reference, he's 1-9.
Well, he went to the conference finals with the.
Yeah, he went to conference finals with Denver.
Knicks, and then with the Nuggets, and then that year with the Knicks when they lost to the Heat, he was in the second round.
So he's 1-9 in the Western Conference first round.
Okay.
He is
3-14 overall.
First round. Yeah. Gotcha. 3-13 overall in the playoffs.
To bring back what Phil said earlier, I think what to equate him to this era would be kind of like Phil was talking about with Dominique.
Probably a close comparison, yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, all he does is really bring scoring. He doesn't really do anything else. Like defense isn't there. He could be a lot better than what he was. He could have been a lot better.
He refused to be relegated to the bench earlier than he should have because in OKC he still thought he was a starter when he was and they wanted him to be a bench player, and that's why he wanted to leave. But then now he's realized, hey, I'm not that guy anymore. So now he's accepted his role. He did it with the Blazers. Now he's doing it with Lakers, and he's not bad now. I mean, he's not.
Like I said, for his career, he's only averaged 2.7 assists per game. That's pretty low for a wing, especially one that handles the ball as much as he did. He wasn't really a passer. He didn't rebound as well as he could have. I just think he could have been so much better than what he was.
Well, I will also criticize the fact that he forced that Knicks trade, where Knicks had to give up all those assets to get him. Where if he waited till the summer and got into free agent, Knicks wouldn't have had to give up as many assets, and those Knicks teams would have been better. But he couldn't wait till the summer. So.
And normally when you lose a star player like Denver did, they won't make playoffs. I think they still made playoffs consistently after Melo got traded for a few years. I mean, they were just in the same position they were with or without him. It's not like much change with Denver. It's lost a marquee star.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. He's just not as good as some people try to tout him as.
I will agree. All right, so we're going to go on to our number 4. Coming in with 17 points, was voted on by 2 people. Number 1 by The Mountain and number 4 by Max. As no surprise, with anybody for us who know The Mountain very well, it is going to be Kyrie Irving.
With how many points?
17.
Since Mountain's not here, I guess I will start. If he was here, we'd probably be here 20 minutes talking about it because he can't stand Kyrie. But the reason I think he's overrated is because a lot of people, even you hear it nowadays, will say Kyrie's one of the best point guards of all time. I do think he has the best ball handling, but I wouldn't put him in the best point guards of all time because, one, I think every single time he's dependent upon to be the guy, he either, one, gets hurt or the team doesn't win. Throughout his career with the Cavs, before LeBron came, they were among the worst teams in the league. Whereas LeBron, when he had bad rosters, he would lit them up. Kyrie, whereas he was the best player and he didn't have many players around him, the team
Two
still
number
was
one
bad.
picks with him.
Huh?
Yeah, 2 number 1 picks after Kyrie.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then when he was at the Celtics, they had good records. They had a good team, too. I think he got hurt in the second playoffs. I don't think he played against the Cavs in the championship game series. I can't remember for sure if he was hurt in the first year there.
That was the year they went to face the
I
Cavs.
mean, he's hurt. He's always hurt.
He was hurt the whole playoffs, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because
Was it-
Terry
oh,
Rozier
for
had
those
a good. Terry Rozier was in the playoffs and he played well.
Yeah, that first year.
Did
yeah.
Kyrie
He's
get
only-
hurt both years in the playoffs? Or
He
no?
only played 1 year in the playoffs with Boston. He missed the other one.
Yeah.
So again, but like that Boston team was really good. They should have probably made a championship game, I would think. They had a good roster. The only time Kyrie's really had success in his career is when he's not supposed to be the guy. Is when LeBron's there, or even with the Nets now when he's kind of the third option when he plays. I feel like he's overrated because again, a lot of people think he's one of the best of all time, but every time he's counted on to be the guy, he isn't.
Now, I'll say my issue with Kyrie. People say he's the most skilled point guard of all time, but they're only countering the maybe like shooting and ball handling. But passing is a big part of point guarding. And to me, he's nowhere near one of the greatest passers of all time. And to me, I say if you want to just say he's the most skillful with the ball in his hands, like shooting or dribbling, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you can't be the top most skillful and not have great passing.
Well, you also got to count in he's one of the best under the rim players. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
I'm not
they
saying
count
he's a
in
good
the
player.
fact that he can score on all three levels and get to the basket and still drive and get a shot without being able to get above the rim, as they say.
I'm not
I
denying
also-
that, but again, when you say point guard, you gotta count passing in there too.
Oh,
You
yeah,
just-
no.
And a lot of times the point guard is dependent upon to be a leader of a team. I don't think Kyrie holds leadership qualities that would make a championship roster. He works best when there's someone else to be dependent upon to be the leader and the guy.
If you would ask me if I had to pick these 2 point guards, Chris Paul or Kyrie Irving, I'm choosing Chris Paul 10 out of 10 times.
Chris Paul wins.
100%. So I don't think he's overrated, but where I will agree with the knock is that Kyrie is not the most dependable throughout seasons, especially with his injuries. And I get you can't always control injuries, but there's still something about like that famous line that what's his name used to say,
Herb Warriors.
Herb words, the best ability is availability. So, that does count to it. I think where there is a level of, like with the Nets last year when he just kind of disappeared and didn't tell anybody, like, come on, man. Like,
Yeah,
I get you wanted to take your pause. He was on pause, not break. Pause.
Yeah, pause.
Like, say something, at least to Kevin. Like, say something to Kevin Durant and your coach. Like,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Like,
they were
just disappear.
Yeah, they were holding press conferences. Kevin was like, "What's going on with Kyrie? I don't know."
And I think they're all like,
And,
going
and
on.
Kyrie likes to tout himself as a great leader. I don't think his teammates will agree with him, especially the Celtics teammates.
He holds too many opinions that are controversial for him to ever be a universally liked leader on the team. And I don't think he cares about basketball as much as LeBron, Michael, Kobe.
I think Charles Barkley might have said something along that Kyrie is the smartest dumb person he knows. He said Kyrie thinks he's so smart, but he's not as smart as he thinks he is. That's probably true.
He's not.
I'm not saying he's
let's
not
be real.
smart because he went to Duke. You got to meet a certain academic.
He didn't go to
standards
Duke for
to-
academics.
I mean, I'm not saying he's not smart. It's just he probably thinks he's smarter than he really is.
Yeah, and I will, I enjoy watching him play, but I think he is one of those classic cases of a Robin of he's great, but not everybody's a leader. Not everybody's a number one, and that's fine.
Yeah. He's
There's
not.
people
It's
who made a
okay.
great career of being a number two. Many great careers have been made over that.
Jake, you have any thoughts on Kyrie?
On God's flat earth, I'm not going to talk any disrespect to Kyrie Irving.
I think it would have been more
I
conversation.
understand, Jacob.
The
What
Mountain
overrated
was
to
the
me
would have said
is
that.
when they say he's the most skillful of all time. They take away one of the biggest aspects of being a point guard. They try to quantify that for Kyrie.
But I'm a bit more reasonable with my Kyrie hate than
Yeah, I think you would have said more because we would have.
Hunter,
If you give me, he'd probably be like, if you give me 10 point guards to choose, he'll probably be on the list somewhere. Would be towards the back end of 10 point.
no, there is
Because
no list. There is no list of top basketball players Hunter would ever include Kyrie on. It could be that list. That list could have Smush Parker, and he would still pick Smush over
I'll definitely
Kyrie.
take Kyrie over Smart.
It could be a list of top 10 players named Kyrie Irving. He wouldn't put Kyrie Irving on there.
I'll take Kyrie over Smush. I mean, I think anyone besides Hunter would.
But-
And
but
Smush Parker. And Smush Parker probably would take himself.
Yeah. But the one I always tell y'all with Kyrie is that if you put Kyrie on AI's 2001 team or whatever year it was, I do not think that team goes to the finals with Kyrie
They
instead of
absolutely do
Allen
not.
Iverson.
They absolutely do not.
Oh hell no! Oh no! They don't get past first round. So yeah,
I've seen a lot of outlandish. We need some more consistency of overrated. We got some outrageous people on this list.
We got some big names there.
yeah. The next one is going to be another surprising one we've argued about, and I disagree with this one. Got 20 points coming in at third. The Mountain put this person number 2. Max put him number 5. D3 put him number 6. He has a movie that just came out. He used to work in a grocery store. He is Kurt Warner.
How many points?
20 points.
So
Okay.
Kurt Warner, my issue with him is like, yes, he's a good quarterback. I just don't think he was Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Again, he's a 2-time MVP, Super Bowl winner, so you can't hold that against him. But for most Hall of Fame quarterbacks, you see consistency year to year in their career. There's a whole middle section of Kurt Warner's career that's essentially empty. I mean, it's when he left the Rams the first time, he went to the Giants and then Arizona. He had a time from his last year with the Rams to his third or fourth year in Arizona. It's like maybe 5 or so seasons where he was not a starting quarterback game by game. Is kind of inconsistent when he started. So there's a whole middle section of his career that's kind of empty. But the main reason I think he's overrated, because again, let's keep in mind who he was playing with. And with the Rams, it was Torrey Holt, Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, even Nazir Hakeem was good.
And then 2 Hall of Famers and one that should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and then with the Cardinals, he had Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, Steve Bresson was a great number 3, and then also he had Edgerrin James. And here's some numbers for you, huh?
End of his career.
He was still a good running back.
Like
He was still a good running back. I mean, his yards per carry wasn't great, but he's still good. Good receiver too. But keep in mind the players that he played with.
I would say it was Kurt Warner. Look, he had 2 good years with the Rams, and then 3 good years with the Cardinals. That's 5 good years. I don't
As
think
you've
that's enough.
seen with other Hall of Famers like Terrell Davis, all you need is a few good years.
I don't think Terrell Davis should have been in the Hall of Fame either. Because then the NFL will say like Patrick Willis' career was too short. You can't say that and then put these people in.
Hey, I'm not saying the NFL voting committee is not hypocritical, but as they have shown
makes
with
sense.
with offensive players, they have shown you don't have to be good for a long time.
I think with quarterback though, with the amount of scrutiny the quarterback position gets, I think with quarterback it should be a little different. Again, keep in mind who I said he played with. Let me give you some numbers here. He had 16 and 26 against winning teams, which for a Hall of Fame quarterback, that's on the lower end. He had 61 touchdowns to 71 turnovers. His 1% was lower than Trent Green, lower than players like Kyle Orton. This one was interesting when I saw it. He was 1-42 in his career if he trailed by 8 points or more at any point during the game. So he only had, I think, what I saw was like 11 or 12 comeback or game-winning drives in his career, which is less than players, than players like Vince Young. Vince Young had more. So you never really, if he was down, he was going to stay down. He never really had those comeback moments. It doesn't seem like. His touchdown to turnover ratio was 75-89. It was lower than players like Scott Mitchell, Jeff Hostetler, Jeff George, who is known for turnover. In 2002, I don't have the stats in front of me, but Kurt Warner got replaced by Mark Bolger, and Mark Bolger outproduced him. I do have the numbers. Kurt Warner, 2002, had 3 touchdowns, 11 picks in his 6 starts with a 67 quarterback rating. Mark Bolger then has 7 starts with the same team and had a 101.5 rating. And Mark Bolger he was okay. He wasn't great, But then also in the year 2000 with the Rams, Kurt Warner, I think, he had a fairly decent season, but Trent Green played in the middle of the season, and he produced just the equal numbers as Kurt Warner. So I feel like a lot of players with the teammates he has had could produce the same numbers. I feel like he has been carried by the elite squads he's had in Arizona and St. Louis.
I also think the legend of him being a grocery bagger helped propel him to this Hall of Fame. People love the good underdog story, so I think that narrative really helped him out.
It's a good story, and he is a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's bad, but I do not think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
All
I
right.
don't think so.
Well,
If you're a quarterback, I need more than 5 good years.
here's where I am going to fair to disagree with you all. Is he one of the most overrated overrated players? Where I disagree is, yes, I know it wasn't that many years, but at the same time, he was part of the greatest show on turf. As much as his talent was there, he still has to get them the ball. You do have to give him credit. He
Had
did
to be
get
terrible
NFL
not to be able to
MVP,
get them the ball.
which does matter, which does make sense of, like, you got to work hard for getting him. Also, the Arizona Cardinals, and I quote the famous line by somebody over here in a fantasy draft, steal of the draft, Kurt Warner, granted you called it a year early, that the Cardinals team did not have success till Kurt Warner was not successful, till Kurt Warner took over.
Let's be real. The only reason they didn't have success is because they had Matt Leinart. If they had any other decent quarterback, I guarantee you, if you threw Dante Culpepper on that team, they would have been good too.
We don't know. Maybe they would have. Maybe
Matt
Leinart.
Matt Leinart was just terrible.
He does have a losing record as the Cardinals quarterback, which I did not know till now.
Yeah, I mean, they were only 8-8 both those years.
He only had. I mean, his last 2 years were only 2 good years.
Like, I was gonna say, even the year they went to the Super Bowl, they were like 8-8 or something.
They were 9-7.
Or 9-7, and then the next year they won the division with 8-8. I will say the playoff run, he did play well, especially getting to the Super Bowl. Yes,
his playoff numbers
he
are
did throw that
fine.
horrible pass, which was a horrible play. We all saw that Anquan Bolden where he threw the interception in the Super Bowl. I will
How
also,
you don't run the ball is down
knock
there.
him for the Patriots Super Bowl because he did not. Grant Belichick's defense was good, but he also had some crucial turnovers. And
he had Marshall Falk. How many points he scored in that Super Bowl? He had Marshall Falk, Torrey Holt, all
14.
Yeah, it was
17,
11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't like a 17
Yeah, it was a low scoring
17
one.
to 20, I think, or 4.
Yeah, I think it was
No,
2017.
Yeah, something like that. 14, 17?
2017.
Yeah, 2017. Yeah.
Because I remember Patriots had like a 1 touchdown, then they had a pick 6 off of him. And yeah, he didn't play the greatest. So I will give him that. I will also knock that. Do I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? Yes, I think he was pretty pivotal in 2 great offenses. Yes, they were stacked with. Yes, were they stacked with a lot of talent? Yes, they were. But I was going to say a lot of other quarterbacks have had talented players, and they still haven't had the success. It was for a short time, but as the NFL has shown, sometimes short times don't matter. If you are peak, I think the level he is now. Is he helped by the grocery bag thing? Yes, for sure. 100%. The middle of his career, was it great? No, but I think the other 2 parts, because he was able to do that, I still think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
I don't. To me, like I say, you need more. If you're a quarterback, you need more than 5 good years.
It was 5 really good years, though. It was okay, not maybe really, but it was still really one of those years was several really good years.
They're a decent year.
Wins count. Wins do count for his favor because he got to 3 Super Bowls.
3 Super Bowls, yeah, and one with the Cardinals, who at the time was known as like a perennial loser, so that definitely helped too.
Look, I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. I'm just saying he's not a Hall of Famer in my book.
Oh, there are a bunch of other Hall of Fame quarterbacks who.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have,
but those guys played in a different era, at least.
There are some even like that. There's one that we'll probably get into. Even if you take that into effect, isn't it great?
Who's next?
All right, so our next person is coming in with 37 points. Only 2 people did not vote for this person. That was Vitamin J and Josh. Max and D3 both put him number 1. I put this man number 2, and the Mountain put him number 3. It is one of the most entertaining players to watch on the pitch, especially in 2004. Madden, you probably played as this man. It is Michael Vick.
How many points?
with 37 points.
Oof. All right, but
Phenomenal talent. Go ahead.
I'll let you hit some of the bits, but let me do what I want to say. The reason that Michael Vick's overrated, because if you say the word Michael Vick, most people will have this great opinion of him, think be this icon, this culture setter, which I guess he was during his time in Atlanta. What did he really do? He ran the ball. I mean, he was good at that, but what did he do? Again, I also think his time in Philadelphia is overrated because if you ask most Philly fans, they'll put Michael Vick in the top 4 or 5 Eagles quarterbacks of all time, and he shouldn't be anywhere close. For his Eagles career, he what did he do? He had one good year, but his Eagles career, he was 20-20, so 500 and 0-1 in the playoffs. So what did he do? He didn't really do much, and yet people think he did a lot of great things in Philly. He really didn't. And in fact, in 2013,
Wait, hold on. This is also coming from an Eagles fan who watched the games. If you can't tell by the tire
all the stuff I have. In 2013, Vic was because you can't say he didn't have a good team, right? Vic was 2-4 in 2013, and then Nick Foles, I had to like Nick Foles. He won the Super Bowl, but if I want to be real, Nick Foles is not a great quarterback. And Nick Foles. So while Michael Vick was 2-4 with a 5 touchdown, 3 picks, and an 86 quarterback rating, Nick Foles then comes in and goes 8-2. Throws 27 touchdowns, 2 picks, and has a 119.2 rating with the same team. So I just don't think. I think Vic's time in Philly is definitely overrated, and I just think him as a whole career is overrated. He gets pluses for being a great running quarterback, but he wasn't the first one. People always think he was, but Randall Cunningham did it before him.
And Frank Tarkenton did it too.
Yeah. But I always think Randall Cunningham was more Vic-esque with the running.
Yeah.
So he gets that, but I would say this may be some newer fans or some fans may disagree with this, but I think Lamar Jackson is what Vic was supposed to be. Lamar Jackson, I think, is better.
I do think Vic was put in the wrong era because coaching back then, they want to try to make him more of a pocket passer. You put Vic in now, he probably will have better success.
Well, I don't know.
The game
Vic in Philly with Deshaun Jackson, Jerry Maclin wasn't that great. He had great, and LeSean McCoy. He had great weapons.
That's when he was old. If you started him young, he probably could have corrected some of these mistakes.
Maybe, but he didn't correct it in Philly in 4 years.
To me, he has more physical talent. He could have been one of the greatest of all time because he had a beautiful cannon of an arm. He had a pretty deep ball. If you were able to actually give him great coaching and all that, there was no way he shouldn't have been one of the great players without injuries.
I mean, he had great coaching in Philly.
He just didn't do it. Well, I think it was too little too late at that point. I mean, he could have been better than what he was, and he only has, 2 seasons above 3,000 yards passing? Yep. For a quarterback, it's not good. If this was 1960s, that's great, but this is not 1960s. And he just wasn't the greatest. He didn't have a great completion percentage. He just wasn't as good as he was supposed to be, or as he could have been.
I think people like the idea. Yeah, I think people like the idea of Vic better than more so than the actual player.
I think Madden helped him a hell of a lot.
I'll say he probably is the best Madden quarterback of all time.
He was the most broken quarterback. You could not beat him in that game.
Madden, if someone's playing as the Falcons, you quit in the game because it's not fair. Because he's going to run for 300, throw for 300. It's just not fair. You could not. Best video game quarterback, yes. On the field, no. There's been plenty of other better running quarterbacks than him. So to me, it was a lot of talent wasted. He had talent. He just did not use it to the best he could have. Now, I'm not going to get into why he was out of the league for 2 years. It's just could have just been so much better.
Yeah, that's how I sum it. I think he should have been better than what he was. So I just don't. People have this high opinion of him. Think he should be a Hall of Famer. I don't even think he should sniff the Hall of Fame. If you put him in the Hall of Fame, McNair, a lot of other quararbacks should be in the Hall of Fame too.
Honestly, I think Joe Flacco at that point. If that's
Eli.
If you put Vic in, and Cam Newton was the first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Cam Newton should be in there. So I think if you put Vic in there, it opens
yes, Cam Newton should be in a Hall of Fame. Yes, right, Phil.
I agree.
Right, Phil.
Cam Newton. In my heart.
No.
Right? No. Cam Newton, Hall of Famer. You heard it here. Philip said it first.
If Vic goes in, I will agree with you.
If Vic goes in, then yes. Yes. But as it stands there right now, no. So why I put him second is also same. I feel he, like I talked about a little bit earlier with Kobe, not as he's a lot more than Kobe is. He was iconic more than he was good, and we elevated his career to something it wasn't.
Mhm.
You do have to look at, yes, they were set up for a run game, but like, you could talk about yes, he was talented, and I get with Bobby's point. Well, nowadays, yeah, true, but we have to compare him to where they played, not where we want him to play.
Yeah.
And also, it's also on Vic's accuracy was never great. That's on you as a player. Like you never developed that part of your game, and that's part of the transition of becoming better. Josh
I
Allen
do
came
say
in with a horrible accuracy. He
No.
improved it throughout the year, and that's why he's good now.
I will say he definitely did not work as hard as he should have. That's also on him. He
Yeah,
did not
that's
put
what I'm
in the
saying.
effort like he should have.
He was one of those, and I think he's one that he was so talented, especially in college. He relied on his talent rather than always working on his craft. Whereas other people, like you see with Peyton or Brady, where they weren't as talented, so they had to work on their craft more and like really study tape. They study tape hard. You're a quarterback, you have to study tape. You got to be able to read a defense. You got to be able to see blitz coming. You got to be able to change to call audibles. And because I think he was just so talented for most of his career, and because he was so fast, he can just figure it out. But in the NFL, when you get to the pros, it can get you only so far. You have to work hard to become a Hall of Famer. And with the level of where he's blown up to because of how exciting of a player he was, people forget like the product and actually like thinking about watching his career. I think is
That
heavily
game against
into it.
Washington was the epitome of how good of a quarterback Vic could have been. That game against Washington shows how good he could have been.
Mhm.
But
True.
never.
And I think by the time he really started understanding that, it was too late. To like, you couldn't, like, at 30 you're not improving your accuracy at that point. Like 30, 32, like by the time he was on the Eagles, I think it was too late to really change that. You have to change that when you're younger because you got to outdie. Great cannon, exciting player.
And I'll give Vic credit. He's the first NFL player to sign 2 $100 million contracts. I'll give him that.
Sure.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I was.
So I think I already know
As
who number one is. I already know who number one is, and I can't agree more.
Wasn't he the first player to run for
1,000
yards
First
himself?
quarterback, yeah.
So
Yeah,
that was
I didn't
the
put him on my list just because basically now every quarterback essentially has to be somewhat of a mobile quarterback, and Vic kind of, I know there are other players before him like Ronald Cunningham, but it really started blowing up after Vic.
Sure.
I
Definitely
think
now.
Vic did help set the landscape. It's just he did not apply his talents the
Yeah,
best.
I just think he's held up to his pedestal. I can agree that he kind of helped that mold, but I just think he's held to his pedestal as if he was a great player and he wasn't.
Yep. All right. So we're going to go with some honorable mentions. One of them we're going to go into is actually a sport we have not talked about. I'm going to go to Vitamin J, who put in Tito Ortiz.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, so I wanted to put at least one like fighter that, that everybody thinks was good. I put Tito Ortiz on there because even in his prime, I don't really think he was that good. He didn't really, like, if you look at the people he beat, he really, in his prime, he really only beat Vanderlei Silva and like Vitor Belfort. And he also beat Ken Shamrock, but that was like when Ken Shamrock was, not himself. He lost to all like the greats, and then even like later in his career, like the people he beat wasn't good, and he lost to a bunch of people. I just think he's really overrated. I don't think he was that great of a fighter.
He spent a
He
lot
is
of time
absolutely.
avoiding Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, so he couldn't beat Chuck Liddell, couldn't beat Frank Shamrock. I think he beat a young Forrest Griffin.
He did.
But I know he lost the rematch when Forrest Griffin was, when he got better.
Yep.
It just seems like if someone actually had better fighting skill, more often than not, he was going to lose. Again, if you look at it, he really in his early career, he only beat Vanderlei and Vitor Belfort. Those are like the only people he beat that
So
had
for his
any big
career,
name.
he started off 10-2, and right now he is 21-12.
Yeah, but look at
His
that
last
10 and
win
2.
was Alberto Del Rio. His last win was Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, so just with how big his name is, you look at his record and who he beat, and it's not that impressive. So that's why I put him up there.
There
He
was a
beat Chuck
span
Liddell
here.
though, Jacob. He beat a completely washed Liddell.
Yeah, I would say that.
After his first loss, he went 10-2. Then his last fight in UFC, he ended at 16-11.
He resorted to beating people after their prime, like Chuck Liddell. They dusted off the bones of Chuck Liddell in 2018, and he lost because he could never beat him
He ended
in his
his
prime.
UFC career at 5, like on a 5-9 win loss after he lost to that's Randy Couture. He was
The only
10-2
person he could beat consistently was Ken Shamrock. He beat him 3 or 4 times.
3 times. Looks like 1, 2, 3.
But that
3
was when
times.
Ken Shamrock Ken Shamrock wasn't even that great after the 90s
Yeah,
at
I
fighting.
agree. And he
So
would not have had the light heavyweight title as long as he did. He avoided Chuck Liddell for so long. So
he avoided Chuck Liddell. Okay, and you look at who he beat. None of those guys are memorable.
Evan Tanner, yeah, I agree.
There are some names, but they're not the best of that division at the time.
No.
All right, the next person we're going to hit on was voted on by Vitamin J, Max, and D3. I'm surprised the Mountain didn't put him down. It is Draymond Green.
Look, my reason I put Draymond is because people try to say he's better than Charles Barkley. He's not the talent of Charles Barkley. Some people say he would have been better at some of these players of the past. He's just not on that level. Good player, not great.
Yeah, the Charles Barkley thing's pretty much why I put him on here. Charles Barkley would eat him for lunch, breakfast, and dinner if he had him in the 90s, or they played. If Chuck was in his prime versus Draymond in his prime, Chuck's eating him every time. As Shaq would say, it's barbecue chicken.
I'm not gonna lie. I felt slighted by there was something I saw a discussion about best defensive players, and people had the audacity to say that Draymond was a better defender than Dennis Rodman, and I lost my mind at that. He does a lot of stuff well. Like he considers himself a jack of all trades, but like I don't know. It's just he's not as good as he's a good team player. But he's not like the
fans try to say.
yeah. So here's the thing about him: if he wasn't on the Warriors, he wouldn't be nearly as remembered. I think a lot of it is just because he's on the Warriors. And it's easy to be a team player when you could just get 10 assists by passing it to Clay, Steph, or KD.
On a funny note, how if Dennis Rodman and Draymond were to guard each other, how quickly would they be ejected?
First quarter.
I think Rodman will win the mental game. Rodman would win that.
If they were getting a fight, I got Rodman winning that fight 10 out of 10 times.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll agree with you. With like, if you're comparing Charles Barkley, like, come on, get out of here, get out of here.
Some people do. I'm like, this is
like you're ridiculous, and I know it's probably because of that feud and people were trying to have Draymond's side, but Charles Barkley did have a point with what he was saying. I don't always agree with Charles Barkley because there are times I feel he's a little too old school and doesn't give credit to the new school player. But that was one of the times I do agree. Most of the time I do agree with him, but that was one of the times I definitely agreed. Where I give him a little more credit is that I feel he was the heart of that team, and from like a intensity point, he was kind of you would say kind of the Draymond. He was kind of he was really the only physical one because Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are not those style of players. He's going to be the one that.
You argue he cost the Warriors the championship by being too Draymond.
Yeah, I will say, but I think he was good for them because one, he kind of was the heart, and he was going to do all the dirty work. Two, he was willing to take that number 3 role, and not everybody's always fine with that. Oh. Granted, that's what's going to get him in the Hall of Fame, but he was very critical to him doing that number 3 role and doing the dirty work and being the one who's going to be like, I'm going to be the aggressive one here. And you're
it's
not
probably the equivalent of a modern day enforcer.
And then another thing about him is in games where Steph and Clay did not play, the Warriors are horrible. Absolutely horrible.
He would never be a 1 or 2.
He's a good team player, but I do think he's slightly overrated in that regard because what would his numbers look like without just dishing it to Steph and Clay? Now, he does create a bunch of shots because he does a bunch of pick and pops. He's really good at that. So, but his like assist numbers are highly inflated in my opinion because I think anybody's assist numbers will be inflated when you're passing it to Steph and Clay.
Well, I think one of the things is his success is also he knows he's one of those players that's known his role and does it. He doesn't go beyond his role. He understands who he is and he doesn't go beyond, like he knows he's not one or two. And a lot of people, like you saw when Kevin Durant, after 3 years, it started becoming an issue of like, it's not always so easy to be just that guy. Granted, it was good for him because that's it. It was his skill set. Also, you got to give him credit because 2016, that Game 7, if it's not for Draymond,
yes, he would have won the
granted,
MVP if they had won.
Probably cost them some game. If it's not for Draymond, the Cavs would have blown them out. Draymond was the only person playing that
If the
game.
Warriors won Game 7, Draymond would have won MVP. And that's the only thing that's a knock against Steph Curry is that none of the finals that they have won or were going to win was he going to win the MVP.
All right. We're going to hit a couple more. One, I just really want to hear your argument really about this one. And we kind of discussed it a little bit, but I didn't hear the argument. I think D3 knows who it is. It's Reggie Jackson.
Oh, Reggie Jackson, he's a good player. But here's the biggest criticism I have. People try to say he's one of the best hitters of all time, one of the best overall baseball players of all time. He's nowhere close. He's nowhere close. And his playoff numbers are not as good as people think they are either. For his career, he has more strikeouts than hits. His batting average, let me see, 262. Not a good batting average. What else does he have? On-base percentage is 35%. It's okay. Not the greatest. Power numbers are good. But again, it was like he was a better version of Adam Dunn. Again, he was more of an all or nothing hitter. Like I said, more strikeouts than hits, Adam Dunn. And playoffs, his numbers are slightly better. He has 8 more hits than strikeouts. Batting average is 278, which is good. It's just not as good as people try to tout him as. Like, if you give me 50 baseball players, he may be number 50.
He's the straw that stirs the drink.
Yeah, he's a 2-time World Series MVP. He stirs that drink.
A lot of players on the Yankees could have won the World Series during those years because the Yankees were.
But he won it. But he
won one with Oakland. I'll give him that. He's not as good as people try to say he is. He's good. Hall of Famer, yes, because of his World Series. Without the World Series, probably not a Hall of Famer.
Did you know that there's a Reggie Jackson car dealership down here?
I did not.
Yeah.
Again, this is the man that he was one of the first all or nothing hitters.
So he's a
trendsetter, is what you're saying.
That's what it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good thing necessarily. Like,
what want to say baseball? Put Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. Quit playing around.
Oh, yes,
Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds is no doubt Hall of Famer. He should have been Hall of Fame. He is 20 times.
I don't like that after a certain amount of time you can't get in. I don't like that.
But now it's gonna be up to the baseball players to let him in.
Yeah.
The writers.
Yeah. I was gonna say, especially with how skewed, because just baseball is just too hard to get in.
And Phil, if you want me to get even more, his defense was terrible. For his career, he had a negative 16.4 baseball WAR, which is pretty much he's a below average defender.
Okay.
He wasn't very good on defense. He was okay on offense. He would hit you a home run, but then he would strike out 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So this October, great play. It's just not as good as people like to say he is. I don't even know he'd be top 50.
Okay. The next player I'm gonna hit is gonna be Baker Mayfield.
The only issue with putting Baker on his list is that this was
he's
last
not good
year.
enough.
High on my list, but after this year, he's kind of fallen down because he was so terrible.
To me, he's only been 4
I
years.
never thought he was good. Oh, go ahead, Bobby.
But to me, it's only been 4 years, so I think he still has time to turn it around. Let's say if he throws 40 touchdowns next year, also he's not overrated.
Yeah, I mean, I think just at this point, his legacy was something that, like, people were like, "Oh, he's the greatest Cleveland Browns quarterback of all time." Like, yeah, Cleveland Browns have sucked for a long time. That's not saying much, and I don't think so.
That's not true.
He's the best one in the past 30 years. I'll give him that.
Way too much credit for how good the Cleveland Browns were. Just because he was the quarterback, everybody gave him all this credit. It's like, no, he had a really good team around him. He had Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. He had 2 great running backs behind him, an amazing defense, and a really good coach. I think he was, even his rookie year, like the wins he had, he didn't beat anybody. He didn't even play that well. but I think because he did decent and it was Cleveland, people made it out to be more than what it was. I felt now it's calmed down, but I felt there were some excuses given to him that, like, for other people, because, like, all of a sudden we found out about his torn labrum, which I'm gonna say. So if he's that hurt, he shouldn't play.
Left shoulder, by the way.
I agree. He should not have played. I definitely agree with that.
If he was that hurt, he shouldn't play. Otherwise, if he's playing, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to grade you. Otherwise, you shouldn't play. And granted, it's probably because he's in a contract year. But I've said if I was the Browns, I would not sign him because what he's demanding, I would not give him that contract.
Oh, you let him play the 5th year out, see how it goes, and then.
Philip, people say the label's an excuse. No, if you're playing on the field, I can only judge you by what you do on the field, and it was terrible. If you were that hurt, you shouldn't have been playing.
I agree.
If you're playing, I don't want to hear any excuses. You're playing.
I do agree. He should not have played. I do agree with that. He should not have.
Look, if it affected his play, then that's on him. I mean, I can only judge what I see, and he was terrible.
Also, how many commercials he got was ridiculous.
Jacob, what were you going to say about Baker?
Commercials.
He said he didn't even enter my mind to put in this list because I never thought he was good. Even his rookie year when he had like 27 touchdowns, I just like, well, a lot of times some players have really good rookie years, and then once people get tape on them, they fall off. I mean, even Nick Foles had like a 27-2 season, and he's average at best.
I will say, like, do I think Baker's one a top 16 quarterback? No, but do I think he's a starter in this league? Yeah, because there's not 2 other quarterbacks better than him.
Just not on my team, please.
I mean, just look at how good Odell's doing with a competent quarterback in the playoffs.
Oh, he's also in a Sean McVay system too.
Oh, I know, but he also has a good quarterback in Matt Stafford.
I don't know, Matt Stafford.
I was gonna say Baker missed him quite a bit. There was people were giving Odell all that.
Did you see Odell's dad's?
All the blame went to Odell and none to Baker. And I'm
Odell's
like,
dad posted the video. Odell's dad posted the video the times that he missed Odell. So I'm just saying, hey, the Browns offense didn't get any better once Odell left. So that says something.
About the same.
Let me hit you with some. So he's played 28 games against winning teams. He's 7-21. That record's not the worst I've seen, but it's below average as far as win percent is concerned. But in the 28 games, he has 43 touchdowns, 42 turnovers. So I mean, he's scoring as much as he's giving it away.
He's on the positive in about one.
That's a terrible number, by the way.
So I am chomping at the bit to diss number one. I'm just waiting to diss.
So I'll just say one more thing about Baker. He's been in the league 4 years. Okay, now if you want to put him to the Browns standards, then yes, he's good. But one, he's not the best Browns quarterback of all time. That'd be Bernie Kosar. And 2, 3 of his 4 years, he's had losing seasons. So I mean, I don't know. I think this Browns team is better than what it showed this year. And he was a big reason, injury or not, he was a big reason why they didn't win games.
Him and Case Keenum were no different to me.
Case Keenum was 2-0.
Couldn't tell.
I honestly think Case Keenum starting the whole year, they would have probably finished with 1 or 2 more wins.
Okay.
Because he doesn't turn the ball over nearly as much.
Yeah.
Nope.
And last thing I'll say is, people, when you're trying to make an argument for Baker Mayfield, don't bring up the fact that he has a losing record when throwing 40 times. That proves the point. He's not the reason they win. That just shows me the running game is the reason they win. Like, that's not a good argument.
And most quarterbacks have a losing record when they throw 40 plus times. That's not just unique to Baker. I guarantee you. I haven't looked that up yet, but I guarantee you, if I did, I guarantee you 90% of quarterbacks would have a losing record with that stat. Besides maybe Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady. I guarantee you.
All right. So, number 1 with 44 points was the only player that was voted on across the board by every single person. Surprisingly, did not get a number 1 vote from everybody, but we all put it very highly. This man kind of sneak peeked him earlier with making a comment that kind of improved his legacy. Was voted on number 2 by Vitamin J and D3. Voted on number 3 by Max, Josh, and myself, and the Mountain put him number 9. It is good old Broadway Joe Namath.
Yeah, Jacob, go ahead and start that one off.
So Joe Namath only went to the playoffs twice his whole career. That one should tell you a lot. I think obviously the year they won the Super Bowl, and I think the year after that he went to the playoffs, but none the rest of the time. His stat aren't that great. I think he was the first quarterback to ever throw for 4,000 yards.
Mhm.
Like they didn't. I mean, he had a losing record overall. I don't like the QB win-loss record, but since people are use that as a stat to judge quarterbacks, he had a losing record. He also wasn't the only Jet who guaranteed they would beat the Colts, so I don't like the whole story about how Joe guaranteed it. He wasn't the only one. I don't even think he was the first one to do it. It's just because he's the quarterback, you know. He gets the credit for it. And they asked him multiple times if they were going to beat the Colts. So eventually, he finally said, "Yes, we're going to beat the Colts."
My biggest thing
And
is
they
if someone
did.
asks you if you're going to win, of course you're going to say yes.
Yeah. So nowadays, like that has happened many times since then, where people guarantee stuff, but it doesn't get nearly the allure as it does with Joe Namath. And I think that is basically because he plays in New York and it was the Jets. I think that's why it's held in such
I know
regard.
they were heavy underdogs during that game,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were.
There were you.
but to me, like I said, if you put comparing the quarterbacks of his peer, like of his era, he's nowhere close like to a Johnny Unitas or a Bart Starr.
Well, no, his contemporary, which this guy who I'm going to name is so much better than Joe Namath. Again, I know he played in a better franchise, but Roger Staubach is the one
Hey,
who's
Roger
always
Staubach.
compared to him. Roger Staubach is leaps and bounds better than Joe Namath. And I think most people nowadays, especially younger generations, don't really know much about Staubach compared to Joe Namath. And I think it should be flipped. Staubach should be talked about much more than Joe Namath.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. In fact, Joe Namath has 7 seasons below 50% completion percentage. Staubach had 2, and one he only started 4 games. Or one he didn't even start a game. The other one he started 1 game.
And
That's
one thing for
subpar
Staubach,
there.
I know Jacob said win-loss records shouldn't be in quarterback, but to the extent, yeah, I agree with that. But Staubach, when it comes to this, I do think there's a credit to him. Again, I've looked at over like 140 quarterbacks, and only a handful have winning records against winning teams. Staubach is one of them. He was 26-21, whereas Joe Namath was 9-49-4.
And plus, like I
Not,
said,
that's not good.
No,
he has way more interceptions than touchdowns, 220 to 173, while other quarterbacks, Staubach has more
Yeah.
touchdowns.
But like when you hear the name Joe Namath, you think you would probably assume he had more playoff success, but he only went to the playoffs twice, and that's just like that surprises a bunch of people when they see that. And he only won playoff games that his first year, so they won the Super Bowl. Then he went to playoffs after that, but they didn't win, so he never won a playoff game after that Super Bowl.
yeah, so yeah, I agree about there are quarterbacks of Namath's era and previously that aren't talked about like Namath, and I think they should be like I said, Johnny Unitas, Roger Staubach. I would even put Otto Graham was way better. No one, young people don't know who the hell Otto Graham was, but there's a lot of people who should be talked about more. Joe Namath should kind of be more of a. He gets credit for Super Bowl when they won that game. That's good. And it did help the NFL merge. So that's a big pivotal moment. I think that's another reason why people talk about it, because if they lose, then maybe the NFL doesn't merge and AFL doesn't merge. Maybe, I don't know. So I think that's why he gets boosted. Yeah, as far as his
If he
career as a
played,
whole,
I just think if he was like the Minnesota Vikings quarterback who guaranteed to win, it wouldn't be
Oh, yeah.
nearly as
Frank
memorable because it's
Tarkenton's
not the
better, too.
Jets.
It's Sonny Jurgensen is much better than Joe Namath. No one talks about him.
But yeah,
Yeah.
and I know we're not unique in saying Joe Namath is overrated. He's been called overrated for a very long time now. But I mean, it is what it is. You
Yeah,
know.
I think he was also one of those that was flash because of his flash, like a nickname Broadway
Flashy.
Joe, or when he wore the cleats or whatever.
He wore
He wore
the
the fur
coat
coat
on the sideline.
Yeah, I think he was very like he's iconic. Yes.
He was a showman, which I mean,
He
it's,
he was the
he was
same
more.
category. Same
Yeah.
category was big, iconic, but it's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think he was also more marketable than straight-laced Joe Namath, or not Joe Namath, Roger Staubach, who was a military man. So of course he's not going to be flashy. But I mean, when you talk about football, the results matter, and Roger Staubach should be higher up. And other quarterbacks like Frank Tarkenton,
Greasy.
Bob Greasy was better. But yeah, a lot of his contemporaries should be talked about more. Whereas I think Joe Namath is more famous than them, and he really shouldn't be.
Yeah, he got in because of the guarantee, just like Eli will get in for beating Brady twice, and so.
Eli's a better quarterback than Joe Namath.
I can't compare those errors. Those errors.
Yeah, I'm not going to compare eras, but I'm saying without beating Brady twice, Eli's not going to get in the Super Bowl. He will get into the Super Bowl because of that.
Probably.
And he won both MVPs. He might not be first ballot, but I think he will end up being probably first ballot just because of that.
He'll get in only because of Super Bowls. Because Eli, as a regular season, it was average at best.
So
I think he was like 500 for his career or something.
He was exactly 500. But I'm saying even his statistics are that I look up are on the lower end.
Mhm.
But that's for another discussion.
All right. So thank you again for listening. Just a recap, our most overrated players. Tied at number 10 was Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady. Tied at number 8 was Tony Romo and Dominique Wilkins. Tied at number 7 was Tim Tebow. At number 6 was Kobe Bryant. At number 5 was Carmelo Anthony. At number 4 was Kyrie Irving. Number 3 was Kurt Warner. Number 2 was Michael Vick. And number 1 was Joe Namath. So do you agree with our list? Do you have maybe a different some athletes that we missed, or did you say, hey, how on earth did you put this person on our list? So how on earth did you think this person's overrated? But let us know down below. Let us please comment. Feel free to tell Max why he's wrong if Kurt Warner is not overrated.
Don't say Michael Jordan, LeBron in the comments. Okay,
yeah, because we'll just block you. Let's get. I'll log on the account and I'll block you if you say LeBron is.
So and give us, and also if you say somebody, give us your reasoning why. Maybe there was something we overlooked. Again, my name is Legacy. I am the host and moderator. You can follow me at wisdom_legacy on Twitter.
My name's Max, and feel free to follow our pages on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
I'm Bobby D3, and if you want to read any books in the future, we'll provide some links down below. Ones that I've written personally.
Alright, I'm Ian Catan. My YouTube channel is IanInLesbian. You'll hear from me more in the future. I don't really know sports, so yeah, look forward to it.
My name is Vitamin J. You can find me at Twitch, Vitamin J, or Twitter, Vitamin J91.
All right, and like the Mountain would say, his words, not mine. Social media is the bane of society and should die. All right, so
but follow us.
Yeah, but follow us. His words, not mine. I don't believe in that.
I disagree. Follow our pages.
Yeah, follow our pages, please. And also comment below. Shout out to Jack Benny for giving us some comments. And ladies and gentlemen, let the discussion begin. Ian, take us out.